of the counseling department, I'd like to welcome you to Navigating the High School Years. As I mentioned in my email, you're able to ask questions through the Google form, which will be answered at the end of the evening. This will be posted on our YouTube channel, and the slideshow we'll show this evening will be available on the counseling website. Before we get started, I want to introduce everybody with us this evening. First, I want to welcome our administrators, Mr. Kyle Hosier, Ms. Mary Rose Joseph, and Ms. Jennifer Johnson. I'm now going to ask the counseling staff to introduce themselves. I'm Lauren Moore. I work with grades 7, 8, and 9, and I'm also chair of the department.
Good evening. I'm June Pomatano, and I work with the 7th, 8th, 9th graders.
Hi, I'm Jamie Brookman, and I work with grades 10, 11, and 12.
Hi, I'm Kevin Fleck, and I also work with grades 10, 11, and 12.
And Stephanie Fuentes, hi, work with grades 10, 11, and 12, end of alphabet.
Wonderful. So I'm just going to share my screen and we'll get the presentation started. All right. Ms. Matano is going to start with a refresher of the graduation requirements and Regents exams.
Sure, thank you. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. It continues to be a challenging year for all of us with the pandemic. However, I hope you and your family are staying healthy and well. Ms. Moore and I spoke to you about the Regents exams requirements when we had our incoming 9th grade orientation, but I'd like to go over the Regents exams with you one more time. So New York State Regents exams are required tests administered to students that live in New York, which allow them to receive a high school diploma after passing the tests. Typically, at the end of 11th grade, students take the English Regents exam. Typically, at the end of 10th grade, the Global History and Geography exam. Typically, at the end of 9th or 10th grade, the Algebra 1 exam. The Science Regents exam students will take after they complete a full year course of a Regents level class. So for example, if you have a 9th grader currently, they are taking Earth Science or Living Environment. And at the end of the year in June, the students will take the Science Regents exams. Typically, U.S. History and Government is offered at the end of 11th grade. Because of the pandemic, we will see what New York State decides to do for the end of the year this year. Moving on to graduation requirements, students are required to take 22 credits in total in order to graduate from high school. And credits are, counters will make sure that your child has more than enough credits to graduate. And we meet with students every year to discuss what courses they would like to take. When students complete a full year course, they receive 1 credit for that course. So if you look at English and Social Studies, number of credits needed is 4 credits. So if a student takes 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade, English, Social Studies classes, at the end of the 4th year, they would receive 4 credits. Math and Science, 3 credits, World Language, 1 credit. Health is a requirement half credit, so that means half a year every day. Art and or music is 1 credit. Electives, 3.5 credits. Physical education, students need to take that every year, and they earn 2 credits at the end of their 12th grade year. In terms of elective credits, 3.5 credits is a minimum. So we do offer our traditional elective courses. In addition to that, for example, if a student will take every year math, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, they are already earning an extra credit there. Another example would be world language classes. Our students generally excel and enjoy world language classes, and they will take it more than 1 year. So that's where they can earn the extra credits. Additionally, for example, art or music, our students like to continue to take art classes for several years, or band or chorus string several years, and that's how they can earn elective credits. Now I'm going to ask Ms. Moore to move on and talk about
Great.
other topics.
Thank you, Ms. Matano. So I'm going to talk a little bit about course offerings and some program options as your children get older. So as you probably saw coming into ninth grade, students have more flexibility in the classes they take. So they've had choices in what science classes they take. As they get older, they'll have choices continuing in science and also in the humanities, along with the various electives that we offer. We think it's really great for the students to be able to choose things they're interested in or aren't sure, but might be something that they really end up enjoying and pursuing moving forward in high school and beyond. Every year we meet with the students and we enjoy it. We're looking forward to it. It's coming up in right before February break. We'll be talking to the students about their course choices for the following year. So we'll do an overview and question and answer with the students as usual. And then we have all of our students meet with us individually. And that's for us to really do our planning, thinking about the year to come and continuing through high school and their course planning, and to be able to answer those individual questions and help students plan the best pathway for them. As they get older, there are some differences in course levels. So starting in 10th grade, there are some advanced level classes offered. We have both AP and honors level classes. They're considered our rigorous classes. Some programs are AP courses and some are honors. The difference is the AP courses follow the AP curriculum, and at the end of the AP course, they would take an AP test. The AP is part of the College Board, which is also the SATs, so the same company. The honors level classes are created by our teachers. So there's a final, and the curriculum is rigorous, seen on the same level as an AP, the difference being that it's created by us and not driven by the AP curriculum. There is criteria for our courses. The criteria is available in the curriculum bulletin and on the websites for each department. It varies. We encourage students, if they're interested in a class, to read about what the criteria is, and they can always check in with their teachers to see how they're progressing. We do really encourage students to think about balance in their academic schedule. Even if a student maybe is recommended and meets the criteria for a variety of classes, it's important to think about your overall schedule, both in and out of school. We often find students, that are doing lots of wonderful things after school, especially since things have opened up a bit more since the pandemic, and balancing that with some of these classes. The rigorous classes do require a lot of additional work. And so we want to make sure students are finding that balance. Perhaps if making those choices, that's where we can help them to figure out where that balance is, to focus on perhaps the rigor in the courses that they're really passionate about, and to ensure that they're going to meet with success in all of their classes, and just also growing up and having time to do other activities and sleep and rest, and not be too spread too thinly. And so we talk to them all the time about balance, and we encourage you to do the same. The curriculum bulletin, the new one, will be posted within a couple of weeks. Will be available on the counseling department website and also on the main page, and Mr. Hosier will be emailing that home. The current one you can look at now. There will be some changes. There might be some new courses from year to year, but if you're curious to have a look now, we would encourage you to do so. So two different program options that are available moving into 11th and 12th grade. We have our Boces program, and that's for 11th and 12th grade students. It's a wonderful vocational program. It's a half-day program, so students would have their classes here for half of the day, either the morning or the afternoon, and then they would attend Boces. We currently have students doing EMT services, animal sciences, sound production, nursing, just to name a few. We'll talk to the students, the current 10th graders moving into 11th grade, about that opportunities. And if they are interested, there's some virtual field trips we can set up, and you can get some more information about it as well. We also have Phaedrus. Some people might know it as A School. It's another 11th and 12th grade program. It's on our campus. Also a half-day program. So students would spend the morning doing their classes, their regular classes on campus. The afternoon classes, the humanities classes, would be fulfilled in the A School. They also have internship experiences, a lot of team building, presentations. There's interest meetings for families and students in the late winter of this year for the incoming 11th and 12th grade. There is an application process. They really look for having a well-rounded group of students. And so there's not one student or fit. It's just really finding that puzzle each year to have a balance of students within the program. So again, there'll be an interest meeting for parents, opportunities for students to visit the classrooms, meet with current students and FADRs before they make the decision about applying. One other thing just to talk about is involvement outside of the classroom. As much as the academics are really important, we also want students to get involved. We encourage this with them. We had the activities fair, but it's not too late for a lot of clubs, even if your students haven't necessarily started. We have a huge variety of clubs. I love that almost all of our clubs were created by students. So we know they're student driven. And we really like the students to lead them. Many of us are club advisors, and we love to see the older students take charge with the things they're passionate about. It's a great way to feel part of our school community, to connect with students with similar interests. You can go on our website, and Mr. Hoser's also sent home in the past information about the various clubs. Some students also enjoy volunteer work, especially as they get older. There are some more opportunities within the community. We can help students brainstorm a little bit. They can call around. It's a great time for them to learn to advocate and make those phone calls to various places. We have students that will volunteer at nursing homes, animal shelters, soup kitchens, local hospitals. So again, it's another way to get involved. And we often recommend to students to think quality, not quantity. We really think it's more important for a student to find the things they're passionate about and be able to fully commit to those versus spreading themselves again too thinly and doing so many things and not having the time to dedicate to the things they're truly passionate about. So we do, again, like for them to keep that balance in mind. Oh, and I missed that slideshow. Sorry, it's right here. And I missed, of course, sports. We have many students that participate in sports. I think students are really happy that the sports are back this year. And it's been nice to see students kind of back on their teams and enjoying themselves. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Brookman, who's going to talk about what the high school transcript looks like.
Hi. So the transcript is a history of all of your child's high school level courses, which consist of final grades only. Quarter grades do not appear on a transcript. So if a student has one quarter that isn't as strong as their other three, no one sees that grade. They only see the final grade. The transcript also reports Regents Exams grades and the student's cumulative grade point average, or GPA. GPAs are calculated after 2 complete years of high school coursework at Edgemont. For many, your student will receive their 2-year GPA once 10th grade is completed. The student's GPA will not change again until after 11th grade is completed. Edgemont's GPA is on a 5.0 weighted scale, which means that students can have a GPA higher than a 5.0. Our GPA scale is also reported on our website. Many colleges will recalculate GPAs since there are so many variations throughout hundreds and even thousands of different high schools, so that all applicants are on similar scales. Keep in mind, behind every GPA is a story. So two students can have the same GPA, but very different profiles. Colleges look to see that the student is challenging themselves in the courses that they are interested in while maintaining that appropriate balance that Ms. Moore was talking about. We send transcripts home once a year, once the student is in the 10th grade. So again, 10th grade students will receive it this year, 11th grade students, and then again in September when your child is a senior. If you do need a copy of your student's transcript, it's not a problem for your counselor or Ms. Stone or Ms. Cook, our office assistants, to access it and get it to you. I will now turn it over to Ms. Fuentes.
Thank you, Ms. Brookman. So I have the pleasure of telling you a little bit about what you can expect in the coming years in regard to planning for life after Edgemont and the role of the counselor, in the years remaining. I find us to be really lucky as a junior, senior high school. Our students make the transition from junior to senior high school with a counselor they're already quite familiar with. So I think it's a really nice model that we have. They know them well. And so in order to make a smooth transition to their counselor, we switch counselors for 10th grade. Every student gets a new counselor, myself, Ms. Brookman, or Mr. Fleck, and we are with the student and family through graduation. And so in order to make that a smooth transition, so 10th grade, we're not, faces that they're not familiar with, we will be the counselors who go into 9th grade classes. We pretty soon will be doing in the next couple of weeks, going into classes, or in the next month, going into classes to talk about options for course selection for next year. And we will be the ones going into the 9th grade classes, letting them know who their counselor will be. They do sometimes sometimes they get confused and then think we're their counselor immediately. It is for the next year. So we're not ripping them away from Ms. Matano and Ms. Moore just yet. But we want them to, start to become familiar with us. And then we will ask the current 9th graders to make a meeting with the counselor who will be their 10th grade counselor to discuss individually their course requests. That way, again, it's not that they will not have access to asking Ms. Moore and Ms. Matano about course selection for the next year, because I know they know them as students, but we like to kind of bridge that before, 10th grade comes around. So in terms of kind of 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, of course, our first job is to provide social emotional support for students and help them with academic selection. We will tell them, and then also we will start incrementally to plan for life after Edgemont. I know that in our community and the media, there's always a lot of attention on the college process, especially like right now. And I always like to remind students and families that there's no do-overs of high school, and we need to live in this moment for high school, and, and try not to let the post-secondary planning take over everything, but really kind of I always like to think of it as an elective. We can't put down the things that we're already doing, nor should we, but that, we can start incrementally looking into that. So for right now, students really need to focus on their academics. That's kind of their job right now. Continue to engage in extracurricular pursuits. Just to repeat, not any of the extracurricular pursuits are better than the other. People are like, oh, do I have to do service? Like, is a job better than a sport? What's more important, theater or, an internship? And it's really, there's no checklist. It's when colleges are looking at a list of activities, they just are trying to find out more about the individual student and how they choose to spend their time and what's important to them. And that's a way that they can then imagine what types of things and involvements they may choose on the college campus. And so they know that everybody's circumstances are different. Some people have to go home right after school every day to take care of a younger sibling or a pet or, whatnot, and they don't have the opportunity to do those things, or they're involved in a 3-season athlete, so they can't be also doing, work, like so many different things. So really to be authentic to what's interesting to you, and there's no kind of right or wrongs there. Students can certainly be exploring potential career interests. We know they're still young and they certainly need to know what they want to do, but Mr. Fleck will speak a little bit more about kind of the exploring career interests. In 11th grade, what you can expect is, and we had earlier this year already, junior college planning night. Our office will host, and we'll have a panel of admissions professionals. So our admissions representatives from a range of different universities of size and levels of selectivity, and they will speak to us about how to start looking at colleges, what stands out in an application, talking about the role of standardized, all of those kind of different components. And you'll get to ask questions directly to them. You hear from us and have access to us all the time. So we like to bring you the people who are actually reading Edgemont students' applications. Following that, just about this time of year, during junior year, in fact, on Monday, we'll be going into classes to talk about kind of starting the college process with the current junior class. There will be an individual college meeting for every student and a parent or guardian. That's usually a period, about 40 minutes long, to really discuss the individual process, as yours will be, every student's will be different. We will also typically in May host a financial aid night where, again, we'll have a speaker that, somebody who works in the field speaking directly to you and answering questions about financial aid. Towards the end of the year, we will talk about, we will have a workshop that we host about college writing, the college essays, short answer questions you may have to write for colleges. That way students can head into the summer, being able to start drafts and get some of that done, because, really it's so tricky for them. It ramps right up at the beginning of senior year when they're in their hardest courses. So if they can get some of that, done ahead of time, we like to provide an opportunity to get them prepared to do that writing. At this moment in time, anybody who's thinking about post-secondary planning, really it's thinking in 11th grade is more global. It's demographics, geography, where, are there any family restrictions? What areas of the country or world are exciting and is the family willing to send you? Size, distance from, location, the general social, I would say, vibe on campus, starting to do visits, maybe when your family, if you're traveling somewhere by car or plane and you're in a community where there's a college, even just seeing what colleges feel like, different college campuses, urban, suburban, rural, that kind of thing, and doing some general overall research. 12th grade is where you're narrowing down that list. And so in 12th grade, at the beginning, we'll have a grade level meeting to talk about our application procedures and the things that students need to do with us in order to make sure that we can help them complete their applications in a timely fashion. We will meet whenever students, want to assist them throughout the process. The most important thing for us is to confirm that each student has a balanced list of schools that they're applying to in terms of level of selectivity for admission, because, there are no guarantees, of course, and the process can come with disappointments and a lot of successes. And we want to make sure that students have options that are really appropriate fits for them. So we'll talk a lot about that. We'll, again, help review pieces of writing and just general application support, not putting aside the day-to-day social emotional academic support that we offer. And now I will we'll head over to Mr. Fleck.
Thanks, Ms. Fuentes. So I'm going to spend just a couple minutes talking about standardized testing and the role that it plays in the admissions process. It's probably one of those areas that this is not something that anyone listening tonight needs to be focusing on right now, but a lot of questions do come up, and particularly given the past couple of years, there have been many changes that have gone on in terms of the role this plays in college admissions. So we thought it would be beneficial to speak about this here. Traditionally, standardized testing, by which I mean the SAT or the ACT, have been a part of the college process for many, not all, but many schools, and that even predates COVID, the idea of test optional colleges. There were well over 1,000 colleges and universities that were test optional, meaning you did not have to send scores if you did not feel they were fully reflective of your academic abilities. So that was something that's already been in existence for quite some time. Because of safety precautions and whatnot related to the pandemic, a vast number of colleges for the class of 2021, the class that graduated last year, almost every four-year university in the country did go test optional. We've seen that trend remain for the majority of colleges in 2022. And some schools have, when they announced their plans for 2022, said we are actually going to keep this in place for the next several years. So we'll see as things progress year to year what colleges plan to do as they move further away from having used that data as part of their process. For now, we will assume it will come into play for our freshmen and sophomore students when they reach that time. And again, it is a part of the process when it is part of the process, but is not the main part of the process. Your academic performance in high school, how you do in grades 9 through 11, that story that a transcript tells, as Ms. Brookman was referring to, is always going to be the first thing that any college admissions office is going to look at. So where does the standardized testing begin? It begins typically with the PSAT. At Edgemont, we offer that in the fall of junior year. Some other schools you hear may offer it to sophomores as well. We do not, as we feel it's essentially the PSAT is a practice exam for the main SAT exam. So we did not want to overwhelm students taking a practice to take a practice. It is not necessary to do any type of preparation for the PSAT. Some students may choose to just because it gives them a greater sense of comfort prior to walking in on test day. Some students definitely just go in kind of cold to take the test, having not sat down and looked at a practice test previously, just so they could kind of see, because again, the goal of this is to get a baseline of how a student could expect to perform on the SAT. What are their areas of strength and areas to focus on in preparing? So we will offer that to all juniors. It's given in October of the junior year, and we'll discuss this with the junior class early in the fall when we're introducing them to these aspects of the post-secondary planning process. It is also a key time to take it in junior year because students who score in the top 3% nationally on the PSAT, it is used as the qualifying exam for the National Merit Scholarship Competition. So students who perform very well on these types of tests may also want to strongly consider sitting for the PSAT to see if they qualify for that scholarship competition. Some questions that typically come up with the SAT or ACT, primary is which test do I take? And the answer is really whichever one you feel is a better fit for you. All colleges and universities in this country and even abroad will accept either the SAT or the ACT. They truly do not have a preference or believe one highlights a particular strength over the other. It is just a means for them to have some sort of benchmark to compare students coming into their applicant pool from perhaps different states, different countries. That's been their primary usage. It's typically first taken in the junior or senior year, excuse me. So typically speaking, a student may sit for an SAT in say March or May, an ACT in February or April. And that's a conversation as we get closer to that time, we can have with students individually to discuss what tests may make the best sense for them because they're structured a little bit differently, and when would be a good time to first sit for that exam. So those are conversations we always are welcome to have. And one last piece I just want to mention is for some of you who may have had older children who went through the process, or you yourselves may remember, there was a third component with standardized testing and admissions, the SAT subject tests. Last year, College Board had made the decision to discontinue subject tests. They are no longer offered, and so therefore are no longer used in the college admissions process. So that takes one element of that off of students' plates in terms of another standardized test they may feel they need to prepare for. So we've saved everybody a Saturday morning. The other piece I want to touch on is kind of how do we, what systems are we using? What technology do we use to assist students to guide them through career planning, college search, and admissions? And that is Naviance. Many of you who are on here are probably familiar if you've had older children or have just heard about it in the community. So Naviance is a career and college search tool that provides a lot of great information and assistance for post-secondary planning. The pieces that come online first for freshmen and sophomore students will be this spring, where we will introduce the career and interest profilers that exist within Naviance. So these ask students to complete inventories that indicate areas of strength that tie into areas of interest that may help them to think and explore careers. This will follow up with discussions facilitated by counselors. We'll go over results with them and talk about how they can use that information to see what type of academic preparation they may want to be thinking about as they progress through high school to help them line up for future planning in terms of things like what type of academic preparation degrees you may need for a particular field. If you're going into a very specialized major, I'm thinking of our future engineers when I say this. Typically, you may want to be thinking about that from the standpoint of chemistry and physics. Courses like that is one example. Our architecture students may want exposure to physics as well as studio art. So this will be some good pieces of information to kind of see where their interests match up with what they may want to do in the future, but then also what are some steps that they'll be able to take to get there. We will add additional functionality that will become available beginning in junior year. In junior year, this is also where students will be able to see their GPA once it's calculated, and it will be posted in their Naviance account over the summer between sophomore and junior year. Any standardized testing that they take as well will be included in their Naviance profile. And Naviance is specific to each student. Any searches, any information that's in there is seen only by the student's family and counselor. It is not external. It is not able to be accessed by, say, any college or anything along those lines. So it's just something that is used internally here at Edgemont. But it's a very useful tool to do research on colleges, to see how students may compare from an academic standpoint to previous Edgemont students who've applied to some of the same schools of interest. And this is a key tool that will be useful to help build that balanced list of schools that Ms. Fuentes mentioned earlier. Senior year, additional tools specific to the application process come to the forefront. This is the main system that we will use to send supplemental information, meaning high school transcripts, counselor and teacher recommendations, etc., on behalf of the students so that their files can be completed and reviewed by the admissions counselors when they're making their decisions. There will be more information that will be shared with families as we approach those milestones throughout the process, but we also include all of this information under the counseling section on the EHS website under college information, and that's accessible to anyone if you just want to do some background reading or research on your own. And I will now turn it back to Ms. Moore.
Great, thank you so much. We know this was a lot of information this evening. We really encourage you. Our website really takes even a deeper dive into some of this information. So we encourage you to look at it now and use it down the road. For example, you can look and read to compare the SAT versus the ACT. You can check out the curriculum bulletin that has all of the courses. Things like this slideshow will be available on the website. So if you go to the main website under departments, you'll see counseling, and then from there you can explore. You'll also find, as you probably already are, we send emails. We have a Google Classroom page for each of the classes where we post announcements. We tend to anything that we email to students, we also share with families, so everybody's in the loop. As students get older, we do want them to kind of be taking charge of some of these decisions and planning, but we of course want you as parents and guardians to be able to support them in doing so. You can always reach out to your child's counselor if you have any questions as well. And please know there'll be even more as the years go on. As Ms. Fuentes mentioned, there will be more night programming specific to your child's age group and where they are in the high school and post-secondary planning process. I do want to note, I know I took a quick check. I know somebody was curious to see the transcript. I know we didn't open it now. It was a little hard to open and see visually. This whole slideshow with clickable apps to see the transcript sample will be available on the website. I'll have it up by tomorrow, and it'll be right under the meetings tab. So you'll be able to see it there. So with that, I'm going to jump into questions. I'm going to exit out. So some of the questions I think were answered. So some people were great in ahead of time asking their questions. So anything that was already answered, I will skip over. If you have any clarification, if you ask that question, again, happy to reach out to us. So I'll start with the first question that was not answered through the presentation, which is, can Health 10 be taken later than 10th grade? Since I did courses, I can kind of take that one on. So health is typically taken in 10th grade. It's called Health 10. We, a few years ago, gave the opportunity for students to take it beginning in 9th grade, particularly those students that might be interested in our Science Scholars program, and other students chose to take it as well. If not, it is really slotted and as a 10th grade course. It's a high school requirement. So aside from really unusual circumstances, a student would take health in 10th grade. The next question. Orchestra. They heard that orchestra gets 1 credit after 3 years. And that is true. We added that feature a couple of years ago, given the hours put in. After 3 years in the program, a student would receive 1 credit that would be on their transcript for that course. The next question was about AP Physics. Which AP Physics do we offer? And the answer is AP Physics C. There are different AP exams, and we will follow the curriculum and give the test for one of those, and that's AP Physics in that case, C in that case. Okay, the next question is a question was, I'll kind of sum it up, was what types of grades are needed to get into certain colleges? What should the GPA be? Does somebody want? I'm happy
to speak to that.
Okay.
So it's a good question, and it's something that we know is always on people's minds. And there, people always talk about like a good school, the best school, a great school, and you'll roll your eyes when you hear from me, but I will say, what does that mean? There's no GPA cutoff that is going to get you guaranteed into anywhere. At the same time, when you're talking about very highly selective institutions, they will turn down students who have perfect grades in the most rigorous classes at the school and perfect test scores, and accept students who have not perfect grades and not all honors and AP classes. So my real answer to that is probably doesn't feel like an answer, but it is that students should really just wake up every day and do the best they can on that day. Take classes that are appropriate to the level while considering the balance of the other things that they have kind of in their life. And by making those authentic choices throughout high school, the most appropriate matches will follow for college. So that's
great. Thank you. Next question was, is it okay to take courses from electives instead of the main track? The example was taking AP US History instead of Law and Gov. So those courses are actually in 2 different years. So for social studies, for that example specifically, the students are required to take 4 years of history. And while there's options in terms of rigor of classes, or sometimes the difference like global perspectives versus global studies too, they do need to take some variation of all of those. So in this case, for instance, they would take US History or AP US History junior year, and they are required to take Law and Government as seniors as well. There are some other electives, like for instance, AP Statistics, that could be taken instead of a senior year math class or in addition to.
just to add to that, the Law and Government, so the senior year curriculum is Law and Government and Economics, each is a semester, and those can be taken at the regular level as Law and Government, or AP Government and Politics. And then for economics, it's the economics class or AP macroeconomics. Those do have prerequisites and teacher recommendations that are required for those classes. And when the schedule, as is available in the master schedule that year, sometimes you can take the regions, the regular level of one and the AP of the other. So, there are some mixing and matching opportunities senior year in particular, but, and we'll help you navigate that as those times come up.
Okay, the next question is from a student. Can I take Science Scholars next year if I have not, and are currently in 9th grade and have not taken health yet? The answer is yes, we will. While some students do know, and so they plan and take the health, we know students change their mind, and we will find health will be fit in your schedule along with the ability to sign up to enroll in the Science Scholars Program in 10th grade. Next question. Which and how many AP courses should a student in a STEM track take in junior and senior years?
Can I defer back to my previous answer on that one? I think in junior and senior year, you can take, one of each as the core class, if that is the appropriate level. For example, a junior might take AP Environmental Science or AP Biology, AP Chemistry, if they've met, criteria, as well as if they're kind of in the honors math. It depends on the criteria, whether they would, or other classes of interest, whether they would also be able to take an elective. Maybe that's going to be statistics or computer science or AP music theory or something like that. It just depends on the other classes kind of that they are required to take or they're interested in. But I mean, it's going to really vary by student.
And again, that's why we have the individual meetings with all of our students to really make the best decisions in terms of courses from year to year. The next question is, when are the Regents for 10th graders, and will Regents count as their final grade?
So I'm happy to jump in with that one. So for current sophomores, Regents exams would be given in June. They're given in June for students in freshman year as well. We will see if New York State will be offering Regents exams in June this year. Last year, they were optional in June, and they recently just canceled the January administration of Regents exams. So any student who was slated at the end of 9th grade to take a Regents exam, typically the exams taken then would be math and science. They were exempt from those tests, so they do not have to go back and retake them now. In 10th grade, all students will take the global history Regents. That is one of the 5 that's required. Again, should circumstances change and the state makes the decision it's not safe to offer Regents examinations, an exemption would follow for those as well. The remaining 2, US history and the English Regents exams, will be at the end of junior year.
Next question is also surrounding testing. Do you need to take AP courses to take an AP exam, or can you take just the AP exam?
Should we let Ms. Johnson answer that one? I can answer it. I'm just so students have been able to take an AP exam that they are self-preparing for in a subject that we already offer an AP exam in. So at times students have asked to take, a world language or microeconomics when we don't offer that. And that the family has the responsibility of then finding a location that would offer that. It's been very difficult to do that in the last couple of years because schools are not having students from other schools come because of COVID and that kind of thing. It's certainly not necessary to go above and beyond the curriculum offered at the school. I would love to see students, if they have additional time, engaging kind of in extracurriculars, because when or spending time with their friends or relaxing, spending time with their family, sleeping. But when colleges are reviewing the transcript, they're always looking at the student in the context of what is available at their high school. So there's never an expectation that they would be taking something that is not available to them. And so our students are spread so thin often. And so, when I hear that a student is self-studying for 2 additional APs on top, I really worry about their health and wellness and how they could do all these different things to the best of their ability.
Great, thank you. Next question is, what is the difference between the SAT and ACT? So I actually already mentioned, I'm happy to have somebody give a quick overview, but just another plug for our website. That is one of the things you can access on the website, is a more detailed information about a comparison between the 2, but I'll let somebody jump in if they want to give just maybe a quick snapshot.
I'm happy to do that since I was talking about, and it's interesting because both tests have undergone reformattings in recent times, and actually as of Monday, talk about things changing quickly. College Board has potentially announced another revamp of the SAT that will begin to go live in 2023 and 2024. So the main difference between the two exams is one is the structure, and two is some of the content is a little bit different. So the SAT has a section on evidence-based reading and writing. They have a section on math. There's some grammar in there as well. But the test kind of goes back and forth between those sections, or it has traditionally. So you may have a reading section, you may have a math section where you can use a calculator, a math section where you cannot use a calculator. The ACT kind of chunks the categories together. So you would have a reading section, a math section, and once say you finish with math and you move on to science, you're not going back to math. That is another main difference is there is a science section on the ACT. There is not on the SAT. Both tests do more closely map to high school curriculums, to what is being taught. Traditionally, the SAT did not, whereas the ACT did. But in the last redesign, the SAT tied it much more closely to high school curriculums being taught across the United States. So they mirror each other a little bit more from that perspective.
Great, thank you. The last question is, can parents access Naviance? Which I'm happy to put. So our parents often share an account with their students. That is how we've typically had parents access Naviance. And so it's nice, I think a nice opportunity for guardians to sit with their students. Maybe their students can show them what they're looking at. They can look at the information together, doing the junior college meetings that you'll have individually with the counselor. They can show some, additional features that can be used in the exploration. So that is actually the end of our questions. So we thank you for coming tonight. Again, if you have any questions specific to, our role in academic, social emotional concerns, questions, anything in terms of post-secondary planning, you can reach out to us, use our website. Again, on the website is the curriculum bulletin. It will be updated, but if you have specific questions, please do feel free to use that as well to learn more about particular classes, prerequisites, etc.